Pleasure to call the City of Portage Utility Service Board meeting, our regular meeting, February 6, 2018. Colin, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Colin. Clerk Treasurer Stidham, would you please call roll?
Member Modesto?
Here.
Member Clem?
Here.
Member Williams?
Here.
Member Cannon?
Here.
Member Zilli?
Here.
Member Lynch?
Here.
Member Prisco?
Present. Okay. First order of business are our minutes, and we're going to have to suspend with the minutes, and we'll approve last month's minutes, and this month's minutes next meeting. Next item are claims dockets. We have two items there: the Biosolids Pay App and the Lindbergh Road Pay App. Any
Motion to approve the claims.
Second. There's been a motion and a second. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Member Modesto?
Here. Yes.
Member Clem?
Yes.
Member Cannon?
Yes.
Member Williams?
Yes.
Member Zilli?
Yes.
Member Lynch?
Yes.
Member Prisco?
Yes. Thank you. Our reports of utility officials. Dan, you said you had to leave early. Did you want to go ahead and do yours, or do you have time? Oh, okay. Then then we'll wait for that.
I appreciate you asking.
Well, I thought maybe you want to offer something. Yeah. All right, so we'll move into the engineer's report. Mr. Hannon. And I know there's quite a bit here, correct?
Yes, good afternoon. I will start just by pointing out that you should have received in Dropbox the written status reports for the West Side Interceptor project and for the Biosolids project. Those projects are moving along. Those, of course, are both the state revolving loan fund projects. I would also report that the Fitz Avenue sanitary sewer design is nearly complete. We would anticipate coming to you at your next meeting with the engineer's estimate for the project and asking, and we would ask you at that time to go ahead and authorize advertising the project for public bid. We'll anticipate that for the March meeting. The issue, of course, will be how to pay for that, and with the legal issues associated with the property owner that Ken, I'm sure, will update you on. Willow Creek South, the DLZ has been authorized to prepare the legal descriptions for the takings that will be necessary for the new drainage project that we're undertaking in conjunction with the county. They will, as soon as those legal descriptions are prepared, they will need to work with the attorney and presumably John Shepard to do the next step, which would be appraisals and the actual purchase of the property. Once that's complete, the project will be ready basically for us to hand over to the county. The thinking is that the county will actually take those bids and sponsor the construction. The cost estimate, latest cost estimate from DLZ is exactly on target in terms of the concept that we originally talked about, with the city sponsoring the design and the land acquisition at $1.5 million, and the construction cost estimate at this time is basically exactly at that $1.5 million point. So so far so good in regard to the budget on that project. Colin has prepared the very detailed beginnings of a nice spreadsheet for tracking projects, and I'm available to answer any questions that you might have on any of the projects that you've seen on the spreadsheet.
Mr. Chairman, so in your Dropbox, it's in the utility folder for tonight, is the Excel spreadsheet that we put together. We're still working on budget numbers. We still all need to get together on that, but the updates are there for you to take a look at. I don't know when you...
Yeah, I think what we'll do is you'll be next, and you can
Okay.
talk about any of the changes and updates
Perfect.
in regard to those projects. And I know that you spent a lot of time revamping the new format based upon what was recommended. Thank you and your committee for doing that.
Yep.
John, did you want to comment about?
Yes, I was going to bring that up. We'll hold off the Dombey Road, that's on the agenda. If you want, we'll just hold that till it comes up on the agenda. But I do have one additional item that is not on, technically on the agenda, but that I'm hoping we can bring up under the engineer's report. And that is, you have a letter from Structure Point in front of you that recommends extending the contract time for the West Side Interceptor project. The project technically was to be completed by January 30th. The project can't start until CSX allows us to start the project. So we have a letter recommending, the only thing in the change order is an extension of time. There's no dollars associated with it, no dollar increase. The change order would extend the project time by 91 days. The new completion date will be May 1st. And along with the letter and a copy of the signed change order signed by the contractor is a Gantt chart showing the proposed new schedule. So you all have that for your to review and for your records. So basically, I'm recommending that you approve the change order.
If you recall, with the original completion date of January 30th, there was a fee to be charged beyond that date for every day, correct, John?
$100 per day penalty.
Right.
Yes.
So because of this delay created by CSX, they're asking for an extension, which is probably out of Structure Point's control, and I could see why they'd be asking for that extension. So does the same penalty apply if they don't meet the May 1st deadline?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
And we stated that somewhere?
Well, that becomes the new completion date. If you approve this change order, it becomes a new completion date. The penalties still apply as they would if you did not approve this change order.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Cannon.
Why wasn't this foreseen? Why?
I'm not exactly clear on that. My understanding, you recall that we entered into a detailed contract with CSX Railroad for permission to do the work under their property. My understanding at that time, and I think maybe Structure Point's understanding, was that once that contract was signed, the work could proceed. This other step basically appeared. It's not out of the ordinary for us to not completely understand how the railroad works. And this came up, and what the railroad said is we have 30 to 45 days to review all of these documents. You may not start the project until we give you permission. So we are awaiting their permission. The February 26th start date is the date that we're hoping that we have CSX approval.
That's what I was just going to ask, John. You said that they have up to 45 days to correspond. Now, this new date, is that start date after that 45 days?
Yes, it
so
is.
they have to respond by the time they start again?
That's
Okay.
Well, they're the railroad. They can do what they want, but that is
Oh, true.
after the 45-day period.
Okay, that's what I was asking. Okay.
Okay, any other questions? John, regard? Yes, Dan.
Scott, we'll take and, we'll send that construction, bar chart right there, we'll send it to the residents over there so they can see exactly how the construction will progress.
Yeah,
Can we, maybe you could convert it into English for them?
Yeah.
Because,
It says ABCD on it.
yeah, that, maybe if you could just convert it. Yeah.
Well, it's gonna start on this date, the latest on this date. Here's a chart, and if you correspond with the letters that are on the chart and look at the legend up above, you can see it really is self-explanatory.
Dan, that's not what he asked. He asked to
And I
have it
just
in
said,
English.
when they start New Orleans, I said, we'll do that, but we're still gonna send that to them.
I would recommend that.
But I think what would be great is if you put a piece of paper together that says, between February 26th and March 23rd, they are going to be doing this in creating a bypass system. It will cause this kind of disruption, road work, tearing up manholes, whatever. And then from so on to so on, they will be doing this. We may be tearing up your yard or that type. That's what I mean by convert it to English.
Okay.
They aren't going to, I have no idea sitting here what MH52-59 to MH52-23 Crocus X lot means. So they're not gonna know that.
That point is well taken. Yeah, just convert it, take this information and convert it and communicate it, Dan, in such a way that they'll know exactly what's going on with it.
Okay, that's fine.
Could you send that to our clerk treasurer first for him to preview it before it goes out?
No, I'll send it to the area engineer.
Somebody,
I'll try to make sure it's in English.
our residents don't understand any of this, all they're trying to do is get in and out of the property.
We'll get it
If
right.
you would, Dan, just kind of put an explanation in there why the delay was there.
Yeah.
That it wasn't a city issue, it wasn't the board, it
Okay.
wasn't
Right.
Very good.
Thank you
the department.
Thank you for volunteering to do that, Dan.
Anytime.
Appreciate that.
Can I finish, please?
Oh, sorry.
If you would explain that it was the CSX issue that was the holdup.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you.
One other thing on that.
Sure.
Maybe, just throwing this out there. What if we don't start when this says we start? Should we wait and make sure we actually start this on the day we're gonna start it first? Because what if CSX comes in on the 44th day and says, whoa, we're not okay with this? And then we sent this out and then the residents are like, well, why didn't you start on this day?
We already sent something out.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And then we've already, and nobody said anything, but Chris wants us to notify them way before this February 26th start date.
Okay.
So we'll have something put together. We will send it to all of you like we normally do. You
Thank
all
you.
will approve it and then we'll.
Yeah, and then maybe like on the bottom,
Courtney.
Thank you, Courtney.
You're welcome.
this is subject to change something.
We won't put
Well,
anything concrete.
Yeah,
You also gotta put weather in there too.
Yeah.
Weather could be a factor if it doesn't delay.
Well, the important thing is we're staying in touch with the residents
Exactly.
of that area. I think between Courtney and Dave and Dan, they'll get it right.
Yes, we will.
All right. All right, so any other questions in regard to what's being recommended by our engineer?
I'll make a motion to approve the change order.
Second.
There's a motion second. Any other discussion? Okay, Chris, would you call the roll, please?
Member Modesto?
Yes.
Member Clem?
Yes.
Member Cannon?
Yes.
Member Williams?
Yes.
Member Zilli?
Yes.
Member Lynch?
Yes.
Member Prisco?
Yes. All right, very good.
That's all I have.
Good, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
All right, Colin, we have both the bond and drainage projects, which you can talk about.
so we'll start with the biosolids pad. The project committee met January 29th to discuss biosolids, see if we were going to expand it. The recommendation out of the project committee meeting to the budget committee was to do the expansion, the 370 by 220. I attended the budget committee, and I know Sue will probably want to talk about this more. Sue, if you want to talk from the budget standpoint, from the project side, it makes sense to do the bigger pad, but from the budget side, that's a different story. So Sue, I don't know if you want to talk about that now or.
Scott, would you prefer I wait till my report?
No, since we're on biosolids, let's talk about it.
So the budget committee met, we met on January 23rd and we met again on February 1st. And the bulk of our discussion was the biosolids pad. And we feel very strongly that it's a needed thing out there, but we truly do not have the money. And so at our February 1st meeting last Friday, we, sorry to say, have to keep it at the 220 by 220 because there just simply is not enough funds. At least we're going to have a biosolids pad. We don't have one now. But we are going to have to keep it at the size that we originally came out with. So the budget committee is recommending to the full board that we move forward with the biosolids pad, having it be 220 by 220.
Okay.
And that was strictly a financial decision, and we worked really hard to try to resolve that, but we could not.
I know the committee spent a lot of time discussing this, and we appreciate your efforts in that regard. We need a motion to.
I don't think so.
Okay.
It's what we already.
Yeah, right, we're not changing it, we're leaving it the same. Okay, very good.
But we can instruct the engineer to, if the full board agrees to move forward with that project.
Anybody have any discussion, comments in regard to what the committee is recommending?
Move to give the recommendation to John to move forward with the biosolids pallet.
Okay.
Pad.
At the 220 by 220 size.
220 by 220.
Okay. All right, so we do have in a second, so I guess formally we'll put that into the minutes. Any other discussions? All right, I'm gonna call roll, Chris.
Member Modesto?
Yes.
Member Clem? Member Cannon?
Yes.
Member Williams?
Yes.
Member Zilli?
Yes.
Member Lynch?
Yes.
Member Prisco?
Yes.
On field forces, we're expecting a change order, correct, Dan? Coming to us at next meeting?
Right.
There were a few design things that got missed in the 4 different plans that have happened. I think the amount was
About 22.
21 and some change
Yeah.
for the design changes that
Right.
one wall was 4 feet short. They didn't do hardline internet in the building, and they need to do hardline internet. And the other change was a wall with a door for Courtney's office. Personnel records have to be behind a locked door, so we had to put that change in. Central Avenue East and
Can I interrupt before we move on? I think at the budget meeting, we also said that change order was not necessary because they were gonna take it out of the line item, so we are not gonna get a change order for that.
I had left by the time that was.
Sorry.
Comment,
We
Ed?
still have to do a change order just because of the fact that the contract for the Board of Accounts has to be right. It has to be correct. We still have to do the change order.
Yeah, it just won't get paid out of like bond money or whatever.
It'll get
just come
paid out of their line
normal
item.
budget.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I have a misunderstanding.
And then Central Avenue East, I know I had emailed Ken, we're awaiting Frontier. Last we heard that they should be good to go to move their line, right?
They've submitted plans, they have not started the work, but yes, they are at least being responsive at this time, which is not the case previously.
Get it while we get what's good.
Yes.
Sandy, did you have anything to add about it? I mean, there's not much else to add other
I
than,
don't know, Ken just said they're being responsive, and I was like, I sent an email to Allison a little over a week ago, and she has yet to reply as to what their schedule is, so.
okay. At what point will we be put behind on that
We're
project?
still on schedule for the bid.
Our proposed letting date is, early March.
Okay.
And, it'll be bid out, and hopefully Frontier will get on the ball and get out of the way.
Okay, and that's being bid out by NDOT, not by us, so that'll go through NDOT. Parker, Danube, and Bryant, they're just waiting on some final grass seeding, correct, Dan?
Yes, we're just gonna wait and see how the landscaping, how it performs.
Okay.
And if we need to go in there and do some more, then we'll do some more.
Okay. They did send an invoice to NIPSCO. They have a big major project coming up in the next few months. So we're working on with Lemberg and Parker Danube Bryant to try to recoup some money from NIPSCO for the delay. They're going to need our help on their project. So the idea is we can work with them to try to recoup some of that money. Willow Creek, we talked about the detention system. Ken, at this point, there's nothing else for us to do, right?
On Willow Creek?
Yeah. The Willow Creek detention
Headwaters?
system, headwaters.
No, there's nothing for us.
CIPP, there is an update on Atlanta and Atlanta Court. Dan, do you want to talk about this to the board?
Sure. I believe I reported before that when they were jetting, that they actually, the pipe was so bad they put holes in it and we ended up with sinkholes. I am gonna go out and solicit quotes, and we're actually, John and I, we came up with a plan, and we're gonna send out to 4 contractors and get quotes to put in a 12-inch RCP pipe. The pipe that's there existing now, the metal one, is 20 foot deep. We don't want to dig way down there if we don't have to. So we're actually, since that's at the very end, on Loop Road is where it starts, we're going to raise that up and put a pipe in at 4 foot, okay? And go all the way across, and we're not going to do the CIPP through there. There's some other things we have to do. We got another spot with a manhole. Scott, you see the pictures, correct? Oh no, Colin did. When they put the pipe in, they actually had a pipe here and they were off, so they put the other pipe like that and left a big gap. So they took and filled it in with brick, concrete on the bottom, around the sides, and tar. And we cannot break through there, and we cannot get the liner through there. So we actually are going to have to put a manhole right there, and that is right between the houses. Yeah.
Who's they?
I don't know who did that.
Developer in the 70s.
The Savannah Heights developer.
Clean out the back of the truck and just filled in that void.
Yeah.
So, and that one, that one's gonna be a challenging one just because of the fact that it's back there in the backyards. And we're gonna be going so deep, they're probably gonna have to shore it up or put plates in or trench boxes and make sure that none of that caves in and we don't get no fences down or anything like that. So that's where we're proceeding. I talked to Kenny as far as the legality of I'm sending out quotes by certified mail to 4 contractors, like I said. We're going to have them come into either John and I figure out either his office or my office, and we're going to give them 10 days to look at it and get it back to us, and then we're hoping to start by March 1st on that.
So I would make a motion to the board to allow the quotes to be approved by staff since they're under the bid amount, but they're we believe are going to be above the 50,000 that they're allowed, pending Ken's review, so Ken can review it, so they can get that work started right away, so they don't have to wait until the March meeting to come to us to get approval. So I'd make that motion to the board.
Do we have a second? Second. Thank you. Any other discussion on that motion? All right, call roll, please.
Member Modesto?
I have a little reservation about that. I think we need to look at the quotes because we are very tight in the budget right now.
Well, it won't affect the budget. There's a budget set for CIPP. It'll be done within that existing budget. Yeah, this was already, it was gonna be a lining project. It's now gonna be a new pipe.
You could also do a number not to exceed if you wanted to do that. I think the estimated cost is about $75,000.
That's probably a good idea.
Why don't we do a number to not exceed 75,000?
So you want to,
Well,
Why don't you say 80 or 85?
How much is do you have in the
We had, John did not come up with a number. I had talked to a contractor and we were on the phone. He had came out there at first because I talked to him about it. I said, what would be the cheapest route to do here? I go, do you think a pipe or going down and fixing these holes? And he said, definitely a pipe because it's so deep. And he told me he figured that the pipe and the structures he was thinking would be under 50, but the structure itself put in would be the real expense. And he was thinking between 25 and 35. So I just said, okay, about 75.
So,
but we still need to get 3 quotes.
I'm going to get
Notified quotes.
we want to get it started.
He wants to proceed without having to come back to the board, so let's put a limit of 80,000 on it.
Well, I guess
without it coming for the board for
my concern, how much was this project originally supposed to cost with lining?
Oh gosh, that section I don't know, but it was a $500,000, lining project.
I think it was in the 50s. Or we talked about it at the budget, but I can't remember the figures.
It says here 630,000.
I think I can answer close anyway. There's 300 feet of 24 inch CMP that won't be.
Yeah.
That would have cost us in the range of $30,000.
Okay.
So we won't be spending that money for the lining. And that becomes available for this replacement pipe and for the manhole. I think the replacement pipe would probably be about the same, frankly, about 30,000. What we don't know is this manhole. This is a tough job. We're not going to be using local little contractors on this because the bend is right between two houses. It's going to be a very challenging project. So we're going to use big contractors like Marshall, Grimmer, Gatlin, contractors that are used to working in deep, risky areas. But that could be,
That's a wild card.
That could be a $30,000 or $40,000 item.
I guess my concern is I don't want to set a not to exceed too low, and then it comes in at 76,000, and that's a month delay on the project. That was my concern.
What if we send it to project committee to approve in between meetings if the concern is about time? Project committee can meet more.
How about the budget committee?
One of them, some committee. They can meet more frequently than this board can.
Sure.
Yeah.
Or just call our chairman and have him agree to it. I mean, I guess.
Ask the budget committee if the money's there.
I think there's a way to make that happen without necessarily putting in a not to exceed clause.
If the
Hey,
board
I think
agrees.
you have the authority to do that, but also, really, according to our engineer, we don't have a lot of choices here. That has to be fixed. It's in between two houses.
It's also the road's caving in where the problem is.
I mean,
That's the other thing.
All right, we have a motion.
There's a sinkhole.
We have a motion
And a second, unless there's any amendment.
to that motion, which I hear none.
Okay, we'll go with
Repeat the
Scott.
motion again. To authorize Dan to get the quotes, and since it's over the 50,000 staff's authorized to do, pending Ken's review of the quote, to go ahead and start work. Since
From the lowest.
most responsive bidder.
Quote.
Yeah.
Yes.
Before you start a project, Ken will review it.
Yes. Yes.
Councilperson.
Whatever that dollar amount is, we'll make sure it's communicated to the budget committee, but it's built into the
Well,
CIPP
of course, if it comes in and it's $175,000, well, obviously, there's a problem we need to address.
Go ahead and call roll, please.
Member Modesto?
Yes.
Clem?
Yes.
Member Cannon?
Yes.
Member Williams?
Yes.
Member Zilli?
Yes.
Member Lynch? Member Prisco?
Yes.
Thank you.
Well,
I think
Go ahead.
I'm going through the rest of the projects. Dombey Road, we're going to talk about. Compost site, there's no update. We're still awaiting NIPSCO. And figuring out land ownership, Airport Road, there's nothing new there. The Willowdale Pipe, Dave, Dan, do we have any change from the last meeting? John, Dave, Dan? Willowdale?
No, not yet. I was
Okay.
supposed to get a call 2 weeks ago and I never got a call back. So I guess I'll have to call him again.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, we're going to have to move forward
We'll get it.
at some point. No, that's not on you, I'm saying on at that end. And then the Brant project, I know we authorized to go to bid at the last meeting. I doubt that we haven't actually done that yet, right, John?
That's correct.
Okay.
And if you had a chance, I think at the project committee, we discussed some quicker things that might give these folks some relief faster than putting this out to bid. And
That was the next.
do you have any update on that?
No, the discussion just last week was to install a few drywalls in the neighborhood. And we haven't gotten beyond that point. Dan and I need to meet out at the site and we'll report back to you. We can't do it this month anyway.
No, yeah,
Given the
okay.
weather. So we'll be prepared to address that issue at your next meeting.
All right.
Thank you.
So just for your guy, because I know you're regular attendees, there's kind of two options on the table right now. One is like a full-blown multi-million-dollar project to address drainage, not just on that street, but throughout the whole area. And then there's now this other option of we're looking at, don't know if it's an option yet, of can we do, because look, a multi-million-dollar project's going to be years in the offing, and you guys can't keep waiting that long. So what the engineer's going to look at is there something we can do now meaning within the next couple months, to address the issue, at least to get you guys and your neighbors relief. And then we will obviously still have the long-term plan on the table. But we can't make you guys wait, obviously, 3 years while we put, you know, a multi-million-dollar project together if you've got problems today. So that's kind of what's being looked at, just to bring you up to speed.
Thanks, Chris. All right.
That is it on projects, unless anybody has any questions for me.
Any comments on drainage, or did you incorporate?
Those are all incorporated. We're looking at, just as an update, Chris brought this up. We're gonna take a look at all the flows, which one is it? Outfalls in the city, and see how many we have to put grates on them as a safety concern. So we're taking a look at that. It's not gonna be something we do overnight, obviously, because that's gonna cost money, but just to get us an idea of moving forward, how much that would cost over time for us to do.
Good.
And any future projects to look at doing those on the outside.
As installed.
Okay, thank you, Colin.
Thank you.
I have a question about the bond. When we first voted on the bond last year, I believe it was, for all these projects, do we have, where are you going? Were those voted on, and maybe Ken can help, were those voted on for specific items, or was it a general bond for a list of items?
Generally, with a bond, you have to give proposed projects, but you're not necessarily bound to that. They just want to know what you're gonna, and you usually put a lot more projects than what you can ultimately build.
Yeah, the bond was in 2016, and there was a list, and as Ken said, the list was longer than what we expected to be able to spend the money on, to give the board some flexibility to go forward.
Because I don't see some of the things that were on that bond in this list.
That's correct.
Which ones? Just, I mean, we can add them, they're projects, but.
Well, City Hall's not on here.
Was City Hall in the bond?
Yes,
it was.
$1.5 million to refurbish City Hall.
And then it went to 2.5 and then.
And I think part of that change that occurred was there were some projects that increased in expense costs.
Can we get that all charted out, what went over the bond amount,
Sure.
I think we had a PowerPoint that had X amount, here's how much we're asking for the bond.
Yeah, I mean, the
next page.
project committee can put that together.
Yeah, and see where we're over or where we're under.
Yeah.
It's been talked about for the last couple months, and
yeah, we'll put it together.
It should be done. Yeah.
I mean, I can tell you right off the bat, biosolids was like 1.5, and it's up to 2.89, 3 million. West Side Interceptor, I think, went down because we could line it.
I have one right here. We just got an update.
Oh, yeah.
So the project committee will do that.
We'll have it for the next meeting, John.
All right, thank you.
For the budget.
Fuel forces went up from what we originally budgeted, so.
All right, budget committee.
Yeah, we've had 2 meetings. There's just a couple of things I want to touch on. I want to talk a little bit about Damon Run because we will be getting a report that Sender is doing on the Damon Run Conservancy. And I didn't want you to get the report and then wonder why we were getting it. So from what our understanding is, Valco's looking to purchase possibly.
No.
That's not? No, okay. Okay, so anyhow, we're going to be getting a report from Sender and we'll be looking at that when it gets through here. The Dombey Road project has added $64,000 to our budget, and we have been assured by Chris that he can find the funds to pay the extra $64,000. Not sure the city is supposed to be paying the $241,000. Is that still? Have we talked about that again, Chris?
Let's talk about that when we do the Dombey bid.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, you want to talk about that when we get
to Dombey Road.
All right.
Thank
okay.
you.
We also talked a lot about the Fitz Avenue project. It looks like Engineer Hannon has said possibly that will cost us about $25,000. when the price comes in. So we're looking at that. I'm gonna go on to the February meeting, and that was our largest discussion was on the biosolids pad because we had to pull back on that. We did approve in the budget committee the purchase to move forward with the purchase of the, and I'm gonna say this wrong, the Takeuchi piece of equipment for Takeuchi. Okay, sorry, that's kind of a big word.
You did good.
We reviewed all of that, and thank you to Pat Clem, who did some heavy investigation on that with the cost, if it was American made, how much union energy went into that, and he did speak with people at the field division, and it was recommended by him that we go with the Takeuchi or whatever you want to say.
I didn't make the recommendation, I just brought it to the board, to the budget committee.
I'm just gonna recommend this to this board. That piece was $63,000, but we were getting a trade-in of $17,000 for one of our pieces of equipment and $11,000 for our Bobcat with the attachment, another $2,000, so we're actually getting that piece of equipment for $33,000. So the budget committee felt like that was the better deal, and so we are recommending that the board approve the purchase of that piece of equipment.
So the price
That is
difference.
actually on our agenda too.
Yeah.
So
okay, I'll ask my question when we bring that up then.
Thank you.
And, you know, basically that was it. I mean, our gist of our conversation mostly was the biosolids pad, and sorry that we were not able to enlarge that pad, so.
Good job, as usual. You play an important role in what we do here at the USB, figuring out our money and whether we have it or not. So thank you to the committee.
I will let Chris talk about the shortfall with.
Go ahead, Chris.
Well, yeah, I just want shortfall on which one?
On our finances, because we haven't increased the impervious.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, I'll when we get to that, I want to talk about that, but I just wanted to tack onto the budget report, not directly related to the budget, just money overall, and update the board. Formally, we have formally switched over to our new online bill pay setup. I think we talked about that at the last board meeting, and that has gone extraordinarily well. We are still in the process of rolling that out. We're doing as much community education as possible. But already just in the little bit of community push that we've had, have had outstanding response. And so it's been really great. Folks, when they come in and they learn about it, are thrilled because they don't have to come in anymore, and they don't have to pay the fee. We've had some wrinkles that we've been working out, but nothing what we expected. And the employees are doing really well. So that whole process is going outstanding. We've also, so that's number one. Number two, we've been in the process of migrating books, ledger books. The utility kept separate books. The city kept separate books. They're still going to be separate, but now they'll be in one program. So we'll be able to have better reporting.
Plant report, Don.
So for the month of January, we met all of our parameters for full compliance. I did send out the annual biosolids report to the EPA.
The new employee.
We have the two,
yeah.
And both are progressing.
Good.
Very well. So we're pretty happy at this point, I think. They still got a little ways.
Well, yeah.
Before their full evaluation.
Yeah, that's.
But so far, so good.
Good.
Very good.
Can you redact the name on those and send us the?
Can I put a name with them?
No. Can you redact the names? Remove the names, and send us the interview sheets of how they were interviewed and who they were interviewed by.
Sure.
As well as their evaluations. When you do those.
When we do the evaluation.
Yeah, we don't want their names. We'd like to see
okay.
how that process works.
Okay, no problem. We can
Right.
do that.
Thanks, Don.
Thanks, Don.
Thanks, Don.
All right, Field, David.
Well, outside our normal weekly report that we do for you guys, all the only thing we've done was, we assist general services with plowing. And we plan on, later on this week, probably doing that for them also. Unless you guys have any questions for me.
Yeah, obviously your weekly reports keep us informed.
Right.
Appreciate that.
Scott, I do have a question on that. When they plow for the city, is that, are they incurring overtime doing that?
Possibly, yes, yes.
Can you, in your weekly report, maybe just throw in how many hours were spent during that week on plowing? That might help everyone.
Help monitor it. Okay.
No problem.
Yeah, thank you, Dave, for helping out the city.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, sir.
You got it.
All right, unfinished business, move into Dombey Road project bids. With this project, we awarded a bid to Walsh and Kelly, correct?
Well, you haven't done anything yet.
Okay, wow, I must have been dreaming.
Yeah.
A long time ago, we said
You should have received.
You sure we didn't?
Pretty sure. You should have received a recommendation letter.
All right, there it is.
With a bid tabulation form, and we were talking before the meeting, we actually did open the bids in December. We reviewed the bids, the 4 bids that were received. The lowest responsible bidder is Walsh and Kelly, and if you decide to award it, we would recommend that you award it to Walsh and Kelly in the amount of $405,039.39.
Make that motion.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and second to award the bid for the Dombey Road project. This is not the neighborhood, this is the Dombey Road, correct?
Correct.
This, just to summarize, this is to reconstruct Dombey Road between the tracks and the toll road. Basically remove that entire pavement and build a new road with curbs to install the necessary inlets and storm sewers, and then to install a series of dry wells down Plaza Avenue in that ditch system that runs along the south side of Plaza. That's the extent of this project. The follow-on or need to coordinate activity will be paving of the neighborhood roads. Those roads are all in the paving packet, part of the community, what we call community crossings project. We're anticipating that the Board of Works, maybe they did it today.
They approved them today.
Board of Works approved the paving, 2018 paving package today, and all of the local roads in that neighborhood are included in the paving package.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. So we do have a motion.
So just to clarify, the Board of Works did not meet today. They meet 1 week from today. They did not approve
They
anything.
meet today to approve it? They're all.
They meet on the 2nd and 4th Tuesdays.
The paving committee met yesterday. Sandy is prepared to make the recommendation that the award be made at the next Board of Works meeting.
There you go.
Thank you.
There you go.
Was this a bond? So I should know this, but I don't, so I apologize. Was this a bond project or not bond project?
It was a bond project.
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Is there any discussion on the motion?
I do.
Yes, Pat.
These funds right here that were going into this bond what are you asking, is this Dombey part of the bond project?
Was Dombey a part of the bond? Yeah, was the Dombey project part of the bond?
Is this monies that we're spending today, is that coming out of that bond money, or are we adding to that?
$100,000 is coming.
Yeah, because 64 is coming, Chris, the 64 is coming, it's not coming out of that, right?
It is.
So you have a breakdown, I believe, from Dan Kaminda, right, on the portion of this project that is a utility project and a portion that was the city, determined to be a city responsibility. This has been an ongoing discussion between the city and the utility, I think, since this project was created, or put together. The breakdown had the utility portion at 164,
4,000.
and the balance as the city's portion, 241. So if you were to proceed with this project, I would suggest you proceed at the 160 whatever and seek the city's contribution. I know there's been some discussions with the city on, I don't know how quickly they plan on contributing that portion, so.
That's what I'm kind of leaning towards.
Yeah.
If they hold that up now, is this money already earmarked now for this?
Yeah, we have these, if you recall, the utility gives the city $600,000 a year, in just annual revenue. So I suppose worst case scenario, we just take the 241 out of that. It might actually just be easier from a bookkeeping standpoint. It doesn't make sense for us to give them money and they write us a check back and whatever. So it probably just makes sense for us to pay the 405 and then just take their portion out of the 600,000. And then it kind of cleans it all up and just.
So we do have a way to, if we don't get a formal agreement or commitment.
So that the money is counted for and credited and we can still move with the project.
Yes.
And it can't be held up at the Board of Works.
That's correct.
That's all I was make sure.
Initially, we were trying to seek a formal agreement with the mayor from the Board of Works, but that did not happen.
I understand.
So the mayor has said on a number of occasions that the money will be there.
But we just got to cover our own tails.
We don't have anything in writing that says that.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we're not marking up money and not being able to finish the project because we're short funds, but we do have the funds regardless.
We do have the funds.
That's all I want to make
from
sure is that
another
the project
source.
gets done.
We do have funds. We have another way to leverage the dollars.
There you go. That's all I'm asking, make sure.
Okay. Any other questions, discussions? All right, Chris, would you call roll, please, on Downey?
Member Modesto.
Yes.
Member Clem.
Yes.
Member Cannon.
Yes.
Member Williams.
Yes.
Member Zilli.
Yes.
Member Lynch.
Yes.
Member Prisco.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Hannon. All right, Cedar Creek drainage easement. I think Sandy's gonna address that. Mrs. Cole.
Back when Cedar Creek Steer Run subdivision was installed, it was shortly after the first phase of Cedar Creek subdivision. Went in, basically Cedar Creek Steer Run is a cul-de-sac off of Cedar Creek Circle. It's just a cul-de-sac, a couple lots with houses on it. Instead of connecting their drainage into the Cedar Creek subdivision, which was only, designed to hold their own drainage, the drainage plan was to take all the water to Lindbergh Road, north to Lindbergh Road. The subdivision itself has easements in it, so when the subdivision plat was recorded, those easements were recorded. But there is a residential piece of property where that piping extends through. It's currently where Mr. Hill lives on Lindbergh Road, goes through his property and outlets into a drainage ditch along Lindbergh Road. At the time, he never provided us with easement documentation to record this drainage easement. So we've had infrastructure on private property. Now that he's looking to sell his home, he has decided to bring in his deed of dedication and basically provide you all with an easement for your existing infrastructure across this property.
So we need a motion to accept that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Motion to accept these.
Second. Motion, did I hear a second?
Yes.
Okay, any discussion? All right, Chris, call roll, please.
Member Modesto.
Yes.
Member Clem.
Yes.
Member Cannon.
Yes.
Member Williams.
Yes.
Member Zilli.
Yes.
Member Lynch.
Yes.
Member Prisco.
Yes.
Sandy, thank you very much. Appreciate your input on that.
Thank you.
All right, the next item under unfinished business is the mini excavator purchase. You heard the budget committee give us their recommendation on the purchase of that item. That item was tabled to today. We received 3 bids, the lowest of which to be the Takuchi mini excavator. So I would entertain a motion to.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Second.
Second.
All right. Any discussion?
Yes.
Go ahead, Mr. King.
Well, Mr. Commenda left. Rather disappointing that I had asked Mr. Commenda to give us the specs and the country of origins of all three of the information to all of us board members, not just to Mr. Clem, which is, I'm thankful that he did it to Mr. Clem. And I would trust Pat to look out for the American worker more than anybody on the board. But I think it's very imperative that the public knows that we're purchasing a product that is not made by American workers. And that is quite disappointing that we would recommend not to do that. We represent the American worker in the city. And then to go outside of the country to purchase a product because it's going to save us $10,000 is just not understandable to me. The American worker pays our tax dollars. So this is just contrary to what we voted on a few months back, an American-made ordinance. I know it has some provisions in there for cheaper products to be purchased. That was just part of getting the ordinance passed. But for all of us on this board that represent the American worker, this is a thumb in their eye.
Did you have a comment? No?
Well, what were the other costs?
Yes, the patent product, which is made by Caterpillar, was $44,581.
Okay.
The Komatsu product, which was provided by Roland Machinery, was $56,907.
Okay.
This particular item that the Budget Committee is recommending, the Takuchi mini excavator, is $33,000.
I just want to remind the board though that it was $63,000. We did get $30,000 on trade-ins from them, which was significantly higher than any other company was going to award us on trade-ins. Not to mention that there were some significant parts of that piece of equipment that the field division felt would be more useful for their work. It would technically replace the two pieces of equipment that you traded in, and they would only need manpower to operate one piece of equipment. And I do believe that Pat, checked into all of that. I felt very comfortable with his recommendation to the Budget Committee, and he made several calls and did a lot of homework on that. So yes, I understand what Mr. Cannon is saying, and I'm sorry that that is the way it is, but sometimes we have to look at other things besides that, and we just weren't able to do it because that didn't come with a slanted blade, the other two pieces of equipment, which was something that the field division critically needed. And so our decision wasn't just based on cost, it was based on the ability to operate the piece of equipment too. So
Can I say this?
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I do want to commend Pat, Councilman Clem, for doing the research he did. He did a very thorough job. One of the manufacturers, Caterpillar, took, I believe it was 15,000 jobs from Lafayette, Indiana, and shipped them overseas. That was, I think, the highest bidder on Caterpillar for the, I think it's a backhoe, not a backhoe, it's an excavator. And I believe in buying American when we can, but we also have fiduciary responsibility, our taxpayers, to spend respectfully to them. We need to make sure we dot our I's and cross our T's whenever we can. And this was one of those instances where we had to make a decision, and our ordinance says that if it's within 6%, then we need to buy American made. And this was not within 6%. There was it was more than 6% range in the price.
About 25%, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think our policy is basically a preference that we can vary up to 6%.
Yeah, over the low price.
So it's,
You compare the 33 and the 44 section.
and I know we did give her, Pat will talk in a minute, but he did talk to the people that are gonna be, or the employees that are gonna be running this piece of equipment, and they recommended that we buy this piece of equipment, and we also got a recommendation from the unions to buy this piece of equipment. I mean, this is not a haphazard decision that the budget committee made. This was very well thought out, talked about, discussed for over an hour.
Right. Thank you.
I would like to see both recommendations in writing if I could, from the union as well as from Pat.
I didn't recommend that the union.
Okay.
The utility or the field services said that they brought it to the budget committee.
Okay.
That the griever from 150 recommended that piece of equipment that is very common.
Okay.
Through
I'd like to see that
other projects.
From local 150, not from a griever, but I'd like to know.
We've hired contractors that's down the street doing the Founders Square. It's got that same piece of equipment sitting down there. And I went and looked at it to just kind of measure it up a little bit. But anyways, go ahead, you guys.
It's also nonsense that we couldn't sell the two pieces that we're trading in at a different rate or even more at auction or to a different municipality or even back to the city. On the city side, can maybe use that equipment. So to take the figures from 33 to 44 is really fuzzy math. It's 44 to 60.
I don't know if
it's 44. Let me finish, please. It's 44 from 60, and then the trade-ins. And the trade-ins could be sold and not traded in. Is that true?
Yes.
We didn't try that. And I believe the one product, Caterpillar, is made, a majority of it, of the 85% of it is made in America. So the 44,000 from the 60,000 is the real figure to what Member Lynch was mentioning. We could sell those products to auction or to another municipality or whatever. Also, if we're going to bid out something that we need, as we did, or quote it out, then put everything we need in that quote. Don't just change it all of a sudden because one company has the angle blade. All three of them should have been quoted out with the angle blade.
They didn't manufacture that.
Well, then those other two should be even involved in the conversation.
Right, that was one of the reasons why the Caterpillar was so high, because that piece of equipment didn't come with the material that we could.
And we would have to purchase separate.
And that's why it was so high, because they had to add those things to the price.
Right.
So it was all comparing apples to apples.
Okay.
Dave, do you want to comment on this?
So who is Mr. Comenda's boss?
Can I finish?
Yes.
All right. Okay. So I specifically asked him to send us all the information on all three of these products. Okay, to all of us on the board. That was not done. I had to ask Mr. Williams today or yesterday if we had any information on this particular purchase, and got a reply about an hour and a half before we came here.
Actually, I replied this morning very early this morning, but go ahead.
Yes, but not with the specs or not with the information, because you didn't have the information. But the budget committee did have the information. The chairman of the board didn't have the information. This whole process has got to be fixed in the future. We don't go through this process and not respond properly to board members, and then we don't spec it out properly.
Our stuff is done according to the utility policy that we've always had.
John, I'd like to.
So in the past, we've just went out and purchased Japanese products without even regarding the American worker.
That's
not exactly what he said, man.
I have always followed the utilities policy on purchasing equipment. That is what I said.
Yeah, beef's not with you. The beef's with the process, and the beef's with one of your employees.
We've always followed the policy of the utility board. That's what I've done.
Mark, you have a comment?
I'd just like to make a brief comment. Dave, what you and Dan are doing by going out and getting these responsible bids and doing it properly, I applaud you for doing that. I applaud you for working with the local union that works with us, our employees, the men and women down there. A local 150s, a credible union, okay? They operate equipment. If this is what they asked for and they wanted, and if it fits what you needed, thank you. I'm not going to sit here and beat you up or to micromanage the way you operate that operation. I'm down there more than most people on this board, and I appreciate the diligence and due diligence that your people.
Can I have the floor back?
Yes, you may, Pat.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
back where I started, we were at a budget meeting, and of course, John, you'd mentioned, you'd asked for this piece, all this information.
That was a month ago.
I understand. While we were at a budget meeting, this information became available. Discussions of different prices to see if it even matched up with the budget numbers that we were working with.
Sure.
At that point, I asked Dan if I can have all the possessions of the literature that he had. I'd like to do some homework myself. And that I did. And Dan's information that he shared with us at the budget meeting was very accurate, very accurate. I found no loopholes in it whatsoever. And I spoke with the union reps. I spoke with union members, the operators that here in our field division. And I did quite a bit of homework on this. We are taking not only the wear and tear of all of our vehicles, pulling this large trailer to haul 2 or 3 pieces of equipment on, and then the operators got to jump from one piece of equipment to the next, and to multitask this operations of a completeness task with 3 different pieces of equipment.
No doubt, we need this.
He brought in to say, let's get this piece of equipment, trade all those in as the 2 pieces, I should say. There was 2, correct? And we'd save time and labor and equipment wear and tear hugely, and time.
We understand that's what we're asking for.
But my understanding is also we're staying within the guidance of the ordinance of the 6%. We're way under that, or over that. So it's that ordinance isn't a question. And the union pushed for this piece of equipment. And I support all the union members that are wanting this piece of equipment, because they're all over the country. They're all over this country. They're all over our projects that's right here in our community. There's one right down the street on the Fountain Square project. Mr. Fagan supported it. The Griever supported it. All the members, our management supported this piece of equipment.
It's all from local.
And
we can get that.
But anyways,
then I'd like to move forward on this so we don't beat a dead horse and spend a half hour discussing.
Dave and Dan did their diligence in doing the research, and everything that I found out, they had already known.
Go ahead, Mark.
The nice that it shared with us.
I know.
So I'm calling the question. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, we have a motion on the floor and a second. We've discussed it very thoroughly. Chris, would you call roll?
Member Modesto?
Yes.
Member Clem?
Yes.
Member Cannon?
No.
Member Williams?
Yes.
Member Zilli?
Yes.
Member Lynch?
Yes.
Member Prisco?
Yes.
All right. New business, impervious surface fees and collection.
I'll make a motion that the clerk treasurer start this month with the new fee, the impervious surface fee. And I'll also add in that motion that we spread over the next 11 months, last month's fee. To all those involved, that would be part of the impervious surface fee, the collection fee.
I'll second that.
It's been a motion and second. Any discussion?
I'd just like to make a couple comments.
Yes, sir.
This impervious surface started back in 2016, correct, John Hannon?
Yes.
The mayor served as a chairman of that board, and it was a former board. I was part of that board. There was a lot of discussions with this, and we looked at what other cities and towns were doing throughout the United States. We spent thousands of dollars, and everybody on the previous board, including the mayor, was really a big push for this impervious surface. And I think it's about time that we move forward with these fees. It's the right thing to do. We have a plant that's limping along. We sat here tonight, we talked about for 15 or 20 minutes about the money situation, where we're at. I think the fee is fair, it's like we voted on in the past, but it's time to start collecting. So.
Point well taken. Any other discussions, comments?
Oh, go ahead.
No,
I just want to say that, I agree with Mark. It's fair because there are businesses in the city that have huge asphalt parking lots that are contributing to runoff of water. And this is not just Portage, Indiana. This is happening all over the place to try to level the playing field with the amount of water that's coming into our plant from having impervious surfaces. So I think we need to move forward with this, and I agree with Mark. It's the right thing to do.
Thank you, Sue. All right.
So we're already into February. Should this start in
March?
No, we're gonna start this month of February, that's my
Well, I
motion.
guess
Start
have
this
the,
month.
the bills haven't gone out for February yet, right?
Correct.
Okay. Would you call roll, please, on the motion?
Member Modesto?
Yes.
McClem?
Yes.
Member Cannon?
No.
Member, Williams, sorry?
Yes.
Member Zilli?
Yes.
Member Lynch?
Yes.
Member
Prisco.
Prisco.
Yes.
I'm all messed up.
All right.
See what happens when you vote no? You throw me out.
All right, we already,
Don't worry about the fees, it's so you can screw you.
we already talked about the biosolids pad modification. I'm going to keep that at its original size. The last item under new business is the Lindbergh Road change order.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the Lindbergh change order. Any discussion? Call roll, please.
Member Modesto?
Yes.
Member Clem?
Yes.
Member, Cannon?
Yes.
Member Williams?
Yes.
Member Zilli?
Yes.
Member Lynch?
Yes.
Member Prisco?
Yes.
See how much better that?
Yeah, that went pretty well. All right, the last, second to last item on the agenda is a reception of remonstrances, public input, and any other business. Is there any other business to come before the USB? Any member have any other business to bring up? All right, is anyone here for public input? Any comments? All right.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor signify by,
Pardon?
this is the USB.
This is utility.
Okay,
We are the same body.
thank you.
It's not deja vu. All right, there's a motion and second to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.